My friend sent me this quote of like, all I want to do is like do the dishes while the sun's setting, and after having fed like my family, and like go out into the grass and feel it and smell the, have the wind blow, and you're like, heck yeah, I could do that every day, and that's offered us every day. Yeah. We just hustle right by it, and so now
we find that inspiration most often finds us working. It's not something, sometimes like some songs, you get the inspiration and it just flows out of you, but often you just got to do the work. And it's like a sweet surprise, but it is frequent, right? Like you're working, and maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 2 hours.
Style is more than just the clothes you wear. It's the essence of who you are, and it's in everything you do. Discover it here and unleash your style beyond what you wear. Hey everyone, welcome back to House of Style. I'm your host, Grant Alexander, and today's episode is already beyond special to me. My wife, Corey, is here on set watching me film for the first time, and that feels fitting because the couple I'm sitting down with today helped shape one of the most memorable moments in our lives. When we were planning our wedding, we didn't choose our first dance song just because it was beautiful. We chose it because it said everything we couldn't, and it captured exactly where we were and exactly where we were going, and my guests wrote it. Their sound, their harmony, their honesty, it's why I've been a diehard fan and hooked since the day I saw their NPR Tiny Desk concert, which aired probably 11 years ago now. They've been a part of my story, and now they're here to help me share theirs. So Amanda Sudano and Abner Ramirez are a husband and wife duo that make up Johnnyswim. And they don't just make music, they build stories like no other artist you know. And it's of what it means to love deeply, to hurt honestly, to hold faith and doubt in the same breath. And their latest album, When the War is Over, I think might be their most vulnerable and refined record yet. And today we get to walk through that and so much more with them, not just as fans of the music, but through the lens of style. Not the kind you put on, that's not what we do at House of Style, but it's the kind you live in, the style of process, the style that shows up when you're tired, when you're parenting on fumes, when you're trying to stay married, stay creative, stay hopeful, the kind of style that carries you through fire and still leaves room for beauty. I am so honored to share this time with them and you all, so let's get into it. Mr. and Mrs. Swim, welcome.
Is it possible just to end it there?
Yeah,
that was amazing.
That was great.
Thanks, we could.
Good night, everybody. Good night. Thank you so much. I feel great.
That's perfect. Wonderful. That was my goal.
That was wonderful.
I am really excited. We were talking beforehand that I saw that NPR Tiny Desk concert, and it's such a great platform for emerging artists and established ones. And there was something about your performance that was so real that right away I think you get hooked. And now, as part of the Swim fam, it's like you guys are like, you're so transparent and open. And I probably guess that when you meet people on the road, they all feel like they know you.
Probably. I honestly attribute it to us both being the babies of the family. We just don't know how to fake anything. Yeah. We just walk in going, hey, I'm here. So
just having fun.
Yeah, we're here to have fun.
Her dad gave us great advice early in our career when we were first starting to write songs together. Some people give advice like, do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, which is an absolute lie, like the deepest lie ever. We do what we love, and I can't imagine working harder.
Right.
But he said, if you can make a living being yourself, you could do that for the rest of your life. And we definitely held to that. And I think that's a staple, hopefully. And it's great to hear you say all the wonderful things you're saying, because it's something that's been a conscious choice as much as it is a natural decision for us and easy, I think, to be honest.
Yeah.
Almost too honest sometimes. It's something that we were hopeful for. Sure. That we could make a life being ourselves, and we never got to fake it. We never got to figure out the new version. We just keep being us.
That's awesome. And I believe to my core that that's style. Style, too many people think about it as from a fashion perspective, but style's in everything. It's the way you speak with people. It's the way you play and write music. It's the way you raise kids. It's all of that. So that's what I want to kind of, anything from past interviews that are just easy questions, I want to kind of hone in on the style of it all, the way you create, connect, share, all of that.
Love it.
So when I first listened to the latest album, When the War is Over, I always listen to an album a few times through, just to like let it cascade over you and just feel it. And I walked away floored, and I felt like I was sitting through that war with you guys. And I have been going through some burnout myself, intense burnout that I've never, ever had before. I've never talked about it either outside of Corey. And it just hit at such a right time. Plus, I'm also thinking technically and musically, the arrangements and what you've done differently from album to album. Do you think this is the most you've been to this point on this album?
I for sure think it is. I think, the first couple albums you're figuring out what it is. And I think it's also partially because when you're touring, you get to change every night. You know what I mean? Like if something doesn't feel right, if somebody plays something differently, you're kind of like honing things in as you go. And then, so the first album feels very much like us because it was years of us touring these songs. And by the time we got in the studio, it came out. And then you kind of go through the next couple albums where you're writing and you're touring at the same time, but you're not really touring the new songs. You're still touring the old songs, that kind of thing. And so you kind of like get it done, for lack of a better term. And then this one, we did it more like we did the very first album, which not the touring aspect, but getting everybody in the same room. So this was an album like that was written in a very vulnerable spot and then recorded based on vibes. And so, it was everybody in the same room. We rented out this big studio. And we did it in 2 chunks. We did it a year apart in 2 chunks. We wrote 6 songs. We did those songs.
Literally almost to the day.
Almost to the day, a year apart. And we all were in the same room, all of our favorite players. And people that know us deeply, and
that have played with us nobody's played with us less than 10 years. It's crazy.
Awesome. Everybody that's, awesome. Everybody's been on every album kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we just would play through the songs and we'd record them a couple times and somebody would go, oh, I like what you're doing there. Yeah, let's follow that. Or, like we would find random instruments in the studio and we'd be like, look at this thing.
The guys playing with us because they're much better than us.
Yeah, they would find instruments or like our drummer, Aaron Redfield, was like, had a chopstick and he's like, listen to what this sounds like on the piano leg. And so we recorded it, and so it was just like a couple days of us just being creative together and bringing the songs to life. And then Abner would go home and obsess over it and listen to every single take and what every single person was doing and distill it down into what you hear today. But it was just, it felt like such a fun, creative, creative process, but also one that was built around community, which is funny because it was written in such isolation, but it was recorded in community.
Yeah,
I like that.
And I think also it is our most honest work, and thank you for even noticing that. And I think the main reason it's the most vulnerable, maybe honest work that we've ever done is because it's the most we've known ourselves. We've been doing a lot of work, like therapeutically, literally going to therapy. You can't write songs together. You can't be acupuncture. You can't work with your spouse without a certain level of. Before we're professional musicians, I think we're professional communicators. I think with each other, with other people, with an audience through song. Less in this because I ramble, but learning to communicate with each other and growing together and growing deeper into ourselves. There was more. It's almost like there's a greater palette to draw from as we got to know ourselves better through this process of mental health and physical health journeys. It's the most honest because it's the most honest we have the ability to be.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
So from like a technical perspective, I thought that this was not I don't know if this comes off in a bad way, but like less polished. Like there wasn't, like I felt like I heard everybody in the same room, not a ton of like pre-recorded like beats that you put in.
Right.
Not a lot of, like there wasn't a lot of background that came in like past albums have had.
Yeah.
And was that intentional or was that necessary just based on where you guys were at?
100% intentional. We're at a point in music production right now where everything, and it's awesome and so many people use it in such beautiful and amazing ways. It's just not a skill set that I find inspired, but that I have or that I'm inspired by, is that you can get everything you want right now. Right now, if I pulled out my iPad out of my bag, I can in 45 seconds get a 1976 Ludwig drum set sound recorded at Abbey Road in the 90s, so 90s microphones, like I can just get that right now, and I can drag and drop it into a session and start building a song. For me, for many people, I think that having that access is really inspirational, really inspiring. It's a really creative process. For me, I find myself numbed by options. And so we made a conscious effort on this album that every sound had to have a pair of eyeballs behind it.
I love that.
Every sound had to have a human brain that was creating it in front of a microphone.
That's cool.
And with that, you get, it's not even looseness, I guess it's, with that concept, you get natural sounds, and you find yourself targeting honesty instead of perfection. And so I love the drumstick sound. Tonight at our show with the Vic in Chicago, you'll hear samples. We'll be triggering a sample sound of a guy hitting a chopstick on a piano leg, and you'd never know that's what the sound is.
Right.
That's what it is.
Are you going to point that out? Are you going to tell people this is a chopstick?
No.
Just let them wonder?
No, just let them enjoy the song.
I'm really curious what it sounds like, so I'll be on the lookout for that.
It sounds nothing like a chopstick on a piano leg. It sounds like a monster hitting a snare drum or something. It's crazy.
So you brought up that kind of tied this to Diamonds. And last year was your 10th anniversary of Diamonds. I loved the commentary that you added, by the way, and the additional songs. When I was thinking about I in my head linked this to Diamonds, I almost felt that When the War Is Over was like this spiritual sequel to it, or almost like Knowing What You Know Now.
Right.
Is it like the prequel?
Yeah.
You have to go through the war and go out through all that crap to get to the Diamonds.
Let me say this real quick. Is that absolutely sonically, the theme going into this album was, we got to make it like we made Diamonds.
Cool.
Let's make it like we made Diamonds. So it's crazy that you picked it
felt
up.
that.
Because it was completely the direction we went. I was going
to say, and then emotionally, Diamonds was written when we lost parents. And so it was written kind of in and coming out of a tumultuous, very emotionally draining season. And this album was too, So I think whereas the other ones, what were we writing about? We were writing about having babies, and we were writing about our friends getting divorced. We were writing about all these things that really mattered, but there wasn't the same pressure emotionally for both of us that there was when we were recording Diamonds. We were coming out of a really truly devastating season, and then in this one too, we were coming out of a very in a lot of ways devastating season, and so I think maybe that pressure squeezed out the similar juices.
I think so. I think
was weird.
Diamonds,
that felt gross.
No, I could squeeze out juices for sure. Emotional juices just squirt.
Don't know that I love that analogy, Amanda.
I feel like Diamonds. I think in Diamonds, when I imagine the songwriting process in Diamonds, or where we were emotionally, or what we were trying to capture. First of all, the train going by is crazy. Please tell me it's a train on my back in California. Not an earthquake, it's a train.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When I think about Diamonds and where we were emotionally and what kind of the trajectory was, or the journey was, is we saw monsters, and we had to affirm that we could conquer, that we could beat the monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the songs in Diamonds are. And I think the sequel, as you said, to Diamonds in this album is, okay, we see the monsters. This time I got to sit with it and look it in the eye. The journey isn't how do I get past it? How do I conquer this mountain? It's what if I had to sit with it?
Yeah.
What if I had to stare the ugly thing in the face? And that's where I think this album feels like the next chapter of really the first album.
I love what you were saying, and that seems like it's really about the process of going through it and not about the end result and trying to get there.
100%.
You left room for everyone with all of their whatever
trauma.
Yeah. To feel it and sit with it and just be like, it's okay to be in it.
Right.
Because I think one of the most, the coolest things that you guys do and that you have a masterful take on is taking something negative and just usually devastating, but making it hopeful.
Yeah.
I mean, the song Devastating itself,
Right.
You're thinking about when your partner is dead and gone. And rather than it being sad, it's that heartache and the disaster, that devastation is supposed to be a beautiful thing. And I felt that the vibe of Devastating also really coming through, just it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to be in the war.
Right.
And that's part of it.
Come on, I love being here. Where's the I love being here. This is amazing. Oh, please more.
Keep going. No, you're right. I think, I don't know that I'm gonna say anything.
That's exactly right, man. That's exactly right.
I'm
That's
glad
the
that
thing.
that's what comes across.
Thank you. This is what I really appreciate about what you're saying too. always had an...
Oh, just you?
Yeah. We've had an allergy. I know I've had one heavy from the very beginning against being the cute couple band. Like I don't like that. That doesn't fit even kind of what we want to accomplish. Oh, look at this cute couple they're married and they make love songs, which is fine. But that's like a thing and it's not the thing at all. The thing is, to your point, love, like even a wedding is, sure, it's cute. It's beautiful. It should be beautiful. And it should be in some ways cute. But at the end of the day, I'm getting in front of all my closest family and friends and I'm declaring before them, before God, the universe, and anybody watching, that I will be in this until my body dissolves. And I will do this until it is through treacherous times, through calamity, through beautiful times. This is what we're swearing to God, not just like lightly doing, swearing to God that I will do this with all my heart and passion until my body fails me and I'm no longer here. That's a crazy thing to say in front of people. Yeah. We've made it really normal, but that's what we're doing.
Right.
And in the same way, I feel like love songs should feel that same, you should feel the treacherous times. You should feel the calamity. You should, of course, feel the joy. Of course, feel the hope. But man, if we're only focusing on the hope and the joy of romance, I think it's worse than only eating candy. I think it's worse than only having a sugary diet.
Yeah.
I think you're defiling how wonderfully, horribly beautiful it is. Imagine only painting in bright colors. That can be a thing. It's cool. It can be, somebody can make that dope, but that's not reality.
Right.
Right? Like, where's the shadows? And the shadows make the bright parts even more beautiful. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
No, of course, I'm happy
That gets me stoked.
So on the topic of style and going through kind of the discography, it's like Diamonds was love. It was romantic. Georgia Capon was reflective. And I feel like for the first time, that was where the cracks opened up. But you kind of got away from the cute couple were perfect thing, shared a few of the more like heartbreak, the more intense moments.
This is the best first date ever, by the
way. Wonderful. I love that. And then Moonlight was exploratory. I feel like that was a lot different technically. And then Johnnyswim was like, I felt just family. And I think I got that more so because of having kids and being a parent. And then like this one feels just raw and unpolished. All of those shifts it's a shift in style. Were all of those conscious shifts, or was it something that's just like, this is it's like situational. It's like, this is what's happening in our life right now, so we're writing songs about that. Or was like, this time I want to explore adding these beats and making it a little more Moonlight?
No, I think we would have probably done a lot better in our career had we thought about what style we wanted and chosen it. But I think we've always kind of, like what he was saying before, be yourself and you can have, a career forever. We've always just kind of gone, what feels right now? What feels like, what do we want to do? What inspires us and we have a really hard time. If somebody says, you need to write a song like this, we're like, probably not going to happen. Yeah. Maybe it will, but it's only going to happen.
And it's never going to happen like that.
Right. It's never going to happen like that. So
we had somebody that worked with us once be like, you just need to write another Home. We have a full-on stomp clap folk song called Home. You need to write another Home. It'll like elevate the career or whatever. It's like, man, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Unless it happens.
If you're satisfied not growing, if you're satisfied not getting any better, not getting any bigger, I was like, I guess I am, because I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We, definitely... We're just, again, we're babies of the family. We do what we want.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I do think it's a mix. I think you see not the trajectory, you see kind of the landscape around you. As we live together, we're married, we build a life and lives of our children together. And so there's always, you can kind of see the landscape moving in the next album, and it kind of, it informs the content of the music.
Sure.
And then as that begins to take shape, it creates kind of its own landscape. It's like, all right, what does this feel like on an album? Where's this gonna go? So I think it's both just kind of doing what's there, accomplishing what's at hand in the songs, what you're going through for sure. But I think also it's like in Moonlight, as you pointed out, it was for sure, let's do something new. Let's do something, let's take a chance.
Well, Moonlight was the first album that Abner didn't produce.
The only album.
Yeah. So the first and only album that Abner didn't produce. So we were getting in with this a great songwriter producer, Malejo, who
Genius, like actual genius.
Who, was responsible for Channel Orange and, so many like
he did Blonde,
literally
Channel Orange.
his
like kind of the new wave of music. I think he's got a big thumbprint on.
Yeah, his discography is like intense. But he's also a dear friend and also loves to eat. And so stylistically, it was a great match because he would get in and we'd be like, let's write a song. We wrote Bridges was the first song we wrote with him. We're in his like little apartment that's like probably this like smaller than here.
In his room, yeah.
And he's got his whole little setup at the dining room table and we were like recording Bridges. And then he's like, all right, cool. That feels good. Should we open some wine to have a tomahawk steak I'm going to make? And we're like,
yes.
We're here for this.
This is best.
That is the style we like.
That is the style we like. And so, and that was like our first real like hang with him. And we're like, we're going to get along just fine. And we did. I mean, literally I have pictures of, I was pregnant with Luna, our second child for most of that recording process. And so there's all these pictures of me just like fully pregnant on the couch, like doing vocals laying down.
There's a photo series that I love where Amanda's like cutting a vocal, laying down on a couch, big belly, and then a week later, Malay at the desk recording Amanda holding the baby as Amanda's standing in the vocal booth next to him.
And he literally, like, most of that album was made with Luna in his arms. Like I would walk in, I would hand him the baby, he would sit there at the computer and hold her the whole time, and she would just she loved it, and I loved it. And so that album was so fun to kind of get in there. And I think for Abner to get out of producer mindset and just go, what do we want to write?
I learned as much in making one album as I could have maybe 20 years. Like the guy's, he's an actual genius, a brilliant mind, an amazing creator. I learned a ton.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
it scratched that album, the whole process scratched an itch that I think probably has made our career longer, not just because of what we learned, but because of the break it gave us from like feeling stuck, I think.
Yeah.
I like that. How would you say your personal styles have shifted over the last decade?
Oh boy.
Both of you.
Yeah, I find for me, well, you want to answer for me and I'll answer for you?
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
I think Abner's always had his own style. He's not somebody who like, he gets inspired by other people, but he definitely isn't. He knows what he likes and he is not worried about if you like it or not. He doesn't care. You don't like it? That's your problem. He will do what he wants. And which is so refreshing because I'm the opposite. Like I'll be like, oh, well, I'll let you speak for my part, but I'll be like, oh, I got these things I like. Like we have my sister's husband, Mike, is known for his style. I mean, just across the board, known for his style. He's had many jobs in different fields, and it's always because his style is impeccable and he knows what's cool and he knows.
I mean,
what he
from
likes.
record labels, from running record labels to being the head shoe designer at Saint Laurent to like just.
Yeah, he's just across the board style guy, right? And I would like save up my money to buy a pair of shoes that I loved. I've been eyeing these shoes for forever, and I wear them the first time. I'm so excited. I walk in, he goes, so what do you like about those? And I was like, I don't know. I just really liked them. He's like, okay. And then you're like, I'm taking the shoes off. Like, yeah, exactly. And the shoes never got worn again. And Abner would have been like, yeah, I love them.
Yeah.
Like, done deal. And I literally threw the shoes away. I was like, never gonna wear them again.
Well, honestly, I probably would have only worn those shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
I probably would have been like really mad and just
Just
worn
stick
them.
it to them.
Yeah, like watch. There's songs that exist because people on our team thought the song wouldn't work. We have the one that comes to mind first of all is Hummingbird.
Yeah.
When we started recording Hummingbird, there was somebody in the management team who was like, that song just doesn't work. Like maybe we'll put that on a B-sides, bonus track, maybe a YouTube video or something. I don't know. I was like, no, watch. And like I made it my life's work to make that song crush, and I'm really proud of the song. Amanda, the way Amanda's style shifted in the last 10 years. We've been together 20 years.
This is going to be upsetting, isn't it?
Which is unreal because we're only 26, 27.
Yeah, I know. We're so young.
We met in preschool, still together. It's unbelievable. Amanda's first words were, I know my own mind.
Legit,
Famously
my first
in the
words.
family.
Yeah.
Legit, her first words were, I know my own mind.
Wow.
She goes to bed. Our first argument was that.
Which, by the way, meant that I was just silent for a long time. Like, it wasn't that I couldn't talk. It was just that I didn't talk until I was like, leave me alone. Yeah.
Our first argument when we were dating, I was leaving PF Chang's where I was a food runner. I never elevated to a server there. I was leaving PF Chang's at like 9 or 8 after closing. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go home and change. I'll come pick you up. Let's go to so-and-so's party. And she laughed. She like giggled, like as if I was making a joke. I was like, I'm not making fun of you. Like genuinely thought I was joking. I was like, why are you laughing? She goes, I am in bed. I go, okay.
And I'm not getting it.
Well, you can get up and like put some clothes. She's like, why would I do that? I was like, party starts at 10. It starts at 10. We're children. Let's go. I thought we were very grown adults. You know, we're 20 something. Like, let's go. It starts at 10. And that was a legit argument we got in. So she knows her own mind. The way I think, and I think that has remained.
I thought that was going to go into how I like to be comfortable at all times.
No, it's about knowing your own mind. Sorry. But also being comfortable for sure. But this is what I think of you over the last 10 years. And if there's anything that's shifted or anything that's grown or changed or evolved in your personal style, I think of this. She knows what she knows absolutely. When she's convinced of something, she's convinced of it. Creatively writing a song, whatever. I think she used to, and this is where I see the change, she used to want to adopt. If you're super stoked about it, or if the world says it's great, she used to want to adopt it, and she would try to fit that idea, whether it's a musical idea, a melodic idea, writing with me or whatever. She would try to figure out a way to make it fit.
Yeah.
Where I see your growth in the last 10 years and your change in style is that if it's not hers, it's not hers. And it's not like I know what I know, and what I don't know, I do not know. And she confidently doesn't know the things she doesn't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And she'll ask for help, and she'll look up resources, whether that's Amy Waters. Amy, does this look right? Or if it's
Amy, help me.
You gotta have that.
Whether it's visual, stylistically style things or sonic things. Like, I don't know. She sees me be passionate about it, and she's like, okay, you're clearly very into that. I'm not right now. So I think you should keep working on that, and we'll get back to it later together. But by all means, keep your thing going. And it's a really mature thing. It's like more laser focused on what she's confident in, and the things she's not confident in, she's not bothered by.
Yeah,
that's because I'm tired.
That's fair
at all times.
That's fair. That's a great point, though. Like I think if more people, the things that you don't care for, you're not passionate about, if you can just rid yourself of them rather than worry about them, or be okay asking for help and delegating.
That's exactly it.
I think that's remarkably healthy and awesome.
I think so too.
Thanks, babe.
So has it been, one thing I've always kind of wondered with musicians, like how do you know when a song is done?
That's hilarious.
You don't ever.
That's hilarious.
Because they say the song is due, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, the song's not done, it's due.
Yeah. I mean, there's still, this album, like every song I could go down and be like, oh, I wish I would have changed that, should have changed that. That vocal I hate, or
this
whatever.
This is the balance, this is the dance too, because so many things happen, spur of the moment, so many things happen because of the limitation in time. Imagine a painting never having a frame, and you just continue and you continue and you continue. It's fine, and maybe there's a piece of art that would be that way that's cool. But ultimately what gives it value is the limitations. Right? The Mona Lisa is this big.
Yeah.
Right? If it was huge, maybe it'd be different. I don't know. Just so much detail in such a small space. In our line of work in writing songs, there's so much stuff that happens in the moment. There's a line, she walked in feeling pretty miserable, dare I say, making this album. And we were recording, I was editing Psilocybin, a song of ours on there. And she's like, oh, I got a line, just give me a microphone. No energy, didn't have much. Grabbed it, and she wrote the bridge and just sang it all in one fell swoop. Look at us. She grabbed this microphone, SM7. Look at us, we're all brand new. And then she laid down, how do you sing it at the very, very end of the song? Oh, look at us, we're all brand new. Some beautiful, like, eloquent line with no energy, pale face, just sang it, put the microphone down, went back to bed. And like that, without limitation, she might have thought, all right, I can get to that on Tuesday. I'll do it whenever. But there's something beautiful that happens. There's something beautiful, all that to say. Is that the song's never done. Sure. It's just due. You just stop. You don't finish. You stop. Maybe that's different for other folks, but certainly for us, you just stop writing the song. You don't finish writing the song. And there's beauty in that as well.
Definitely.
I feel like maybe another answer to that is when you start hating the song, it's
That's
done.
true.
When you start listening, you're like, I hate it.
Too much.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't even want to hear it ever again.
I don't know this, but Amanda makes this reference. You can put so much makeup on that you start looking like a clown.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm clowning it. Let's.
Or like when you work so hard on a meal, like I made coq au vin the other day, and by the time it was done, I had 2 bites, and I was like, I don't want it. And we had so much leftovers. I didn't want any of the leftovers, so I just spent so much time on it, smelling it all day, and I was like, I'm done. So that's how you know when a song is done. When you smelled it too much.
That's great. Or it's clowning.
Yeah, it's
clowning.
great.
Exactly. So I think you've compared songwriting to archaeology or anthropology, one of those.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes you use dynamite, sometimes you use a feather duster.
Yeah. I said that I love it here? I love it here.
Can you give an example of one song that needed dynamite
100%.
and one that used a feather duster?
Can I do feather duster?
I'll do Dynamite.
Okay. Feather Duster would be Annie. It was like one of our first songs that we wrote. Abner wrote the very first line, carpets still holds the shape of your feet. From last time I saw you, walked away from me. Oh, Annie. But he was writing it, his roommate, he had like a shag rug, and his roommate had left to go get some more Cheetos at the like corner market.
Literal
They were like playing Halo or something. And he was like, oh, look how like there's something poetic about his footprint being like left in the carpet. And he wrote that one line.
Like imagine if that was somebody that I loved and they left and that was the last time I saw them. This is all I had left of them. I literally like Cheeto dust on my belly and an inhaler next to me, a Halo headset, yelling at a 12-year-old.
Super hot, obviously. Well of his seduction. And so he wrote that line, and it kind of, obviously we changed the name from William to Annie. And so we had that, and we're like, oh, that's great. We're going to make something. But it literally took years, and it was like little chunks of that song.
6 years, 7 years?
Probably took about 6 year before we actually like really finished the song. But yeah, so that one was like a feather duster. It was like we'd start writing it, and we'd like. Desmond's song is another one. Like
you could force a song to be finished, which is what I say Dynamite is. And if we would have used Dynamite on Annie, it never would have been released. It never would have been. We may have had something, but it wouldn't be what it is.
Yeah, Desmond's song we started writing when we were dating, and it didn't.
That was
we didn't put it out until last album, Johnnyswim. So that one was even longer, where it was just like, we'd start writing. It's not quite right. Let's let it breathe for a second. Be like little.
At
little,
what
little
point?
moves.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But at what point did you bring in Toby?
Yeah.
Did that help
Desmond's song?
finish it for Desmond's song?
No, I think we had already finished it at that point, and every album we just go, because he's one of our dearest friends, we go, hey, just pick a song if you want to be on.
I literally sent him the album. I sent him a Dropbox link with the whole album.
And we thought he'd want to be on Holla or like something else that was like, whatever. And he was like, I want to do Desmond's song. We're like, great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna get to the Dynamite. Yeah. I love that you brought him back. For Dopamine.
Yeah.
I think Dopamine's one of the most interesting songs on the album, just from like a arrangement, and just him on that track is awesome. Also, I'm a huge nerd. I feel like you guys are probably a little nerdy.
Yeah, you're reading that right.
I hear a lot of gaming.
Yes.
Love
you saw me walk in and use my inhaler immediately.
I love that. It's perfect.
That's like a staple.
I love that.
I don't have tape on my glasses, but I got my inhaler.
But I love that he was on it. He talks about what in Desmond's song it was Pikachu. This one is Slytherin.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I
didn't think that's
I thought it was awesome in that, one thing I picked up on was in both you had some strumming on the guitar, some picking in it, and like specifically with Dopamine, it was like a new, more updated, energetic Dopamine. And I was kind of thinking, like, does bringing somebody in like that help finish a song? Do they get, or do they just get the Dropbox? I
think Toby for both of those, Toby just got the song done.
But
we just added bars for those.
Inspiration comes however it comes, man. It's not something we find that inspiration most often finds us working. It's not something, sometimes, like some songs, you get the inspiration, it just flows out of you.
Yeah.
But often you just got to do the work, and it's like a sweet surprise, but it is frequent, right? Like you're working, and maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 2 hours, maybe it's 3 days, but all of a sudden, boop, this little thing shows up. You're like, oh, yeah, I'll follow you. Where are we going? And so it hasn't been, but I could see that happening with Toby.
Yeah.
Or with anything, a conversation, a train rolling by, stuff like that.
Chopsticks
on a piano leg.
Yeah, exactly.
An example of, there's two that come to mind immediately. Home and Ring the Bells were Dynamite songs. Songs that were written, you needed to use Dynamite. I'll use Ring the Bells as the example though. Our dear friend Drew Holcomb, we decided we were going to make this collaborative EP together. He flew out to LA to write some songs for a few days with us. And I'm going to take my watch off. I keep seeing the reflection hit you in the face. It keeps doing this. He came over to write some songs for a few days. And the day before he got there was the few days before, Charlottesville. The Charlottesville thing that happened years ago, really kind of a racist, weirdly religious and racist march that was anti-Semitic.
Right.
It was anti-people of color. And we were just talking about how crazy it is that in days following, these leaders of faith, we're people of faith, a religious background, evangelical background, that all these many evangelical leaders remain silent. And then the big takeaway at the time was there's good people on both sides, was the big takeaway from Charlottesville. Right. And that people, leaders of faith, would follow that good people on both sides thing. Like, this is very obviously the bad guys. Very obviously, Jews will not replace us. I hate that it even came to my mouth. Yeah. That people would march in unison and find brotherhood in a statement so insanely derogatory and so insanely misguided and evil, truly evil, that we can't stand up against evil when it's obvious. Doesn't make me lose faith in my belief system, but it makes me lose faith in you.
Right.
And so the whole song, the conversation was there. And we just grabbed a guitar and started strumming. And I remember we used to live in a house that had a little stairwell up to our studio. And I stood in the stairwell because it sounded cool. And we just started saying things. Like, go ahead.
I was going to say, we call it mouth Ouija. But Abner will get into these like zones, and this was one of them, and this was a dynamite one. And Home was a similar way where he's just like, he'll just play guitar,
and I'll just say, well, what did I say?
And like me and Drew were just sitting there. Well, it sounded like you said this, and he'd be like, sure, but like he is saying some words, but like
for
he's
sure the
also
first
just
line
like,
comes right out. Like Home, the first line came out immediately. It was like, what if I said something ridiculously country? What's the most country thing you can say? Right around the corner, down by the canyon. That's silly. Let's say that. And then you start mouth Ouija and words come. And it with ring the bells this time. I mean it. Bid the hatred fare thee well. Give back the pieces of my Jesus. Take your counterfeit to hell. Had that, good, feels good. Now I'm mad. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
so then it's just going, and the song was written in like 20 minutes. Like it's just dynamite the whole time. But that's what it needed, and you feel it when you sing it, and hopefully when you listen to it. For sure, when you sing it, you feel it. You feel that dynamite. But not every song's that. Not every song should be that. But that's definitely one that was written with dynamite instead of a feather duster.
I absolutely, because that was one of the songs on the Tiny Desk concert, and like that's the booming Home feeling of it. I get now hearing that, I'm like, oh, that makes total sense.
Like we didn't think, let's write a song about a girl that gets beat by her dad. Let's write a song about a homeless man whose parents were alcoholics. Let's write a song about a person who loses. Those weren't conversations we had.
Yeah.
They were just things that came out of us in a moment of absolute explosion.
Yeah. So I love all of this. I want to take the Drew Holcomb stuff, and you brought up unity. And I think unity, unity, home, family, love, those are all constant themes, I think, throughout your music. How do you get, because right now, like what you just described is still happening in the country right now. How do you bring unity to your shows, knowing full well that everybody showing up have very different opinions and viewpoints on the world?
I love the idea of ancient kings visiting each other. They might be warring, but when they meet, they pour 2 glasses of wine, they'd clank their cups together in what we know now as the toast, and the wine would spill from one cup to the other. In this moment, it doesn't matter if our people are fighting outside. In this moment, we are one people.
Don't ChatGPT this, because this is a story that we love.
I don't know if the story's true, but I love the idea. Regardless, it feels true, so it probably is. It is to me. I love the idea. I didn't say the fact, the historical fact. I love the idea of 2 cups, the goblets hitting, the wine splashing. And if your cup's poisoned, my cup's poisoned. In this moment, there's trust. In this moment, there's unity. There is no, to quote Harry Potter, doesn't matter how deep the darkness is, all you need is a little bit of light to defeat it, right? Like, I know it's a paraphrase. You just need a little bit of light. And as mad as I can get, and as much as I have an opinion, and as much as I have people that I disagree with, I know that that's not the most important thing. And I know that's not the driving force behind what we do creatively, artistically, or as people. The driving force is that light, because it doesn't matter how deeply we disagree. We are better together. It doesn't matter the semantics. It doesn't matter the politics. We know we're better together. We know we should care for each other. It's in us. It's ingrained in our DNA. We should take care of each other. We got to find a way to do it. We can love each other well. We can be kind to each other. So the way we navigate kind of these strong feelings at our concerts is knowing that the whole point is this moment in the show together. The whole point is that we can all leave better than we walked in, us included. And it's not because we do something. It's not because we're doing something. It's because we're together.
Yeah.
There's power in community. There's power in unity. And I think, if anything, a concert is a great example, if not the example, that you can, outside the walls, have deep, entrenched disagreements, but inside it's a picture of who we really are, not just who we should be.
Yeah.
It's who we actually are. Because watch us be this. Watch us for these 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Be one people.
I love that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, it gets me fired up. I feel like, if for no other reason, that's why I do what we do. That's a purpose in Johnnyswim, is I hope you leave tonight when you come to the show with your wife more in love than you walked in. I literally hope, I really believe a spiritual thing happens. We don't have to sing songs about any God. We don't have to sing songs, but I think something supernatural happens when we all open our mouths to sing together. I believe in creation. I believe the way it was made wasn't with a command, but with the sound of a voice that sang a melody, much like C.S. Lewis describes in the Chronicles of Narnia. A melody sang from beyond the horizon, and as the melody moved, the stars started shining, and the earth took shape, and it took light, and it took force. And I believe we can interact with something so cosmic when we get together in the same room. It transcends politics. It transcends philosophies. It even transcends the ability to describe it, because it's just a sound that we can make together. And it shows us who we really are. I'm fired up. I can leave. I'm sorry.
I love that so much. I love that so much. I also love these references. I'm a huge Chronicles of Narnia fan. Yeah. I can't wait for the show.
Oh, yeah.
Comes up. Super pumped for that one. But I think that's really beautiful. And I think that's something I believe style can do. Because
One needs only find the light. Sorry. Misquoting Dumbledore. I don't want to get hate.
I think style has that power to, help bridge any gaps between people. I've worked with all sorts of people across political and democratic spectrums. And I think it's the way you choose to go about it. And I think the way you kind of present yourselves at your shows and through your music largely does that. What is Johnnyswim's purpose? I know, big question.
Paying the bills.
Paying the bills.
That's its function. What's the purpose?
Well, I think probably similar to what he said, I think Johnnyswim, also Abner and Amanda, I think the purpose that's always shined through is community. I think when we're at home, that's always been kind of the thing that we feel like we're meant to nourish the most. And then I think when we're on stage too, that's the thing that we feel like we need to nourish the most. And I think that's partially just the act of getting people together, right? Like on stage and at home, getting people together, being the kin keepers, as you will. The people, kin keepers traditionally in families are the ones that make sure birthdays are remembered, make sure the holidays and the traditions stand firm, make sure that if there's disagreements, that there's a way for people to work together. And I think, on stage, we try to do that. We try to be the kin keepers. And we serve our music, on the table, and that's why people come. And I think at home, the food becomes that thing, generally speaking. And so I think community is probably our, and maybe community is really the avenue of our purpose. I don't know.
I think community.
But I think community is. I would think community would be the answer.
Oh, it's a great answer.
I think one of the more profound things is also that you write the songs as service, like that you're doing it for others. Have you found that, because you guys are writing about deep stuff, especially when the war is over, have you found that act of service is too much to bear sometimes? Like if something's so heavy and you're sharing it, the one song on this, She Checks the Weather, that's probably pretty heavy, and I assume the response was equally so. Does that ever become too heavy?
Well, I'll say this, yes and no. When that song specifically, I've never, we've written about losing parents. We've written about stuff that's very personal to us. When that song was coming out, I had already, we knew we had a plan when it was coming out. I wrote a little thing about it that we were going to post. And we were overseas, at a show. And so it's, morning in LA. And so our management team is like, hey, we're going to put the song out. Can you just go over the quote again? And I read the quote just sitting in this theater in Edinburgh, Scotland. And I excused myself to the bathroom and I just cried for 20 minutes. And it was like reading it in the anticipation of, okay, this is going to be out in the world was kind of overwhelming in that moment. And I was excited for it. Like I was happy that it was going out, but it was also like, I've never had that experience of a song being released and being like, oh my God, this is really personal. And then when it actually came out, I wanted, because the song's dealing with chronic illness, and such a big part of chronic illness is the loneliness aspect, because you don't feel good, you don't feel well. So even when you're out, with people having fun, you don't feel well. So you're sitting there like, I'm having fun. I'm telling myself I'm having fun, but really you're like, I just cannot wait to get in bed. Yeah. And then the other times you can't even join because you don't feel well enough to, so there's like a loneliness, and there's a lot of people that will be like, oh, you look like you're doing great. And you're like, okay, right. I feel like trash, or, are you sure did you have enough water? There's just like such a isolation to it. And I wanted to make sure that people that felt that, and people who would hear the song and relate to it, that they had a place where they could feel seen. And so we posted something about like, if you have a story, share it, whatever. And so people were sharing their stories and DMing me. And I wanted to make sure that I looked at everyone. Like I didn't want to miss one, because I know that feeling of feeling missed in an illness, And so for days, Abner had to be like, you need to take a break. So it was overwhelming and it was too much. Like I would just be sitting there.
Just watch her reading and she's just sobbing and like, babe, are you okay? Did you break bones? Like,
yeah.
So I'm just reading everything. It's like, all right, let me take a phone.
Okay, we're going to take a break.
We can come back to it.
And we scheduled our therapist for like a couple weeks after that song to make sure that I was like processing it all, properly. So it was a lot, but I made sure I had a system in place so that I didn't get crushed by it. Yeah. But it was more overwhelming than I expected it to be.
Family's obviously hugely important. Like, how do you guys you tour with your kids, which I think is so cool, fascinating. Like, how do you use your family, whether it's while touring, at home, to kind of get through that? Was that part of the album and like them being a part of the war in the process too?
Yeah. I think the beautiful thing about kids is that, well, one, our younger kids, they don't know that you don't feel well, even if they know that you don't feel well. Yeah. But they just want to be close to you. So it'd be like, the easiest thing for me if I was feeling lonely, I'm like, do you want to have screen time in bed with mommy? And then I had 2 little cuddle buddies immediately. Or our son, who's like so emotionally intelligent, it's crazy, would see me having a hard time, or if he would just see me doing too much, like, mom, you're doing too much, put everything down, you need to go sit down, having that kind of, somebody just keeping an eye out for you. But he also would see, if I was in my room for too long, he would be like, mom's not doing okay. And he would sneak in there. And if I was crying, I'd, try to act like I'm fine. Everything's fine, and he would sit there and go, Mom, I want you to just let out whatever feelings you need to let out. I'm just going to sit right here with you. You're not alone. So just cry if you need to cry and we'll just be together. Oh and then gosh. I was crying for other reasons, and so they were a big way of like pulling me out of the darker moments. And they're just wonderful and we miss them. They're not on tour right now. So we feel kind of sad about that.
I think even like mental health stuff and depression, I think a lot of times it's like finding your purpose. Like, what's my purpose in the simplest terms, in the simplest, easiest, like right now, what's my purpose? Amanda, Joaquin, Luna, and Paloma, that's my purpose. I have purpose. I can help them. I need them. They need me. I have purpose. And it's like the central, most defining laser focus. Everything in the world could fall apart. I know my purpose. I have my people. And in my people, I have my purpose. All right, that's where we're at. How can I help you today, babe? Where we at? How do we make today better for everybody? How do we help? How do I need help? How can you help me?
Yeah.
So I think that's it becomes everything. We talk about belief systems as a lens through which you see the world. I think my family is more than that. My family is the world through which I live in existence in front of other people.
That's beautiful.
Just came up with that. I like it.
I like that. I like that one a lot. What legacy, or like, what do you want your kids to take away when you're gone? Like, what style?
Yeah, hell yeah. Sorry, I don't know. Can I say hell yeah?
You can say hell yeah.
Can I say? Okay.
I told you, profanity
whatever
is
you
totally
want.
fair game.
Hell yeah. The legacy I want to leave behind is children that love well. Children that become adults, that become grandparents, that love well. I imagine the legacy I want to leave is if I could peek from the other side of the curtain when I'm gone and I could see an old Joaquin, our oldest boy, loving his wife well. My baby girls being loved and loving well, loving their children with smiles, serving them feasts of food and of compassion and of kindness. May my name forever be forgotten, but the love that we give, may it grow from generation to generation.
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How am I going to come after that?
Nailed that one.
Yeah. I hope that this, and not to be like pleasure seekers, but I do hope that they enjoy. Like, I hope when I look down and peek through the curtain that I see them enjoying their families and enjoying their kids and smelling roses and painting outside and feeling the breeze and just like being delighted. I hope that
I love that.
They live in delight.
I don't know, that's inspiring. Someone say something else.
Keep going.
I love that. I hope, I saw this quote today and I loved it, that therapy, like when you go to therapy, it's not to be able to hold anxiety or to feel the anxiety or to feel the stress and all the bad things, because you're already doing that. You're learning to handle the anxiety and everything so that you can learn to carry love. So you can learn to carry the ability to be loved, to feel loved and love others well.
Yeah.
So like when I think of that, it's that, like kids that are so healthy, just so emotionally and spiritually healthy that they know that they can carry. Because I think that's a sign of true health, is being able to carry, to accept I'm lovable.
Yeah.
And I'm loved.
Yeah.
Kids that live their whole lives knowing how loved they are. Yeah, that's dope.
That's awesome.
I talk about kids all day.
So much about, same. Like, I love what you were saying about Joaquin coming in and doing this thing, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Corey was just looking at our Nora, she's 18 months, and just started crying just because like she's just sitting there and beautiful, and she has perfect cheeks to squeeze.
Oh, the cheeks.
Oh yeah, she's very cheeky.
Yeah, we love cheeky babies.
You know, something I move at 1,000,000 miles an hour. One of the reasons I ended up a little burnt out was because for 6-7 months I worked 120 plus hours a week.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
And was sleeping.
That'll do it.
And was sleeping under 2 hours.
I'm literally trying to do the math on how many hours there are in a week.
164.
Jesus.
Yeah. And I had to figure that out because I had to see, you know, okay, I need those 2 hours of sleep and this 10-minute nap here.
That's crazy.
And I think for a while, I mean, it hasn't always been that intense, but at least 90 to 100 hours since I've been an entrepreneur.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love what you said. Like, you do work. It is absolutely work doing what you love. It's so much work doing what you love to make it happen in the way you see it.
Right.
But I was moving so quickly, and I forgot if we were watching a TV show or if I came across I read one newsletter every Thursday that I get from James Clear. And it was basically like, doesn't matter how fast you move, if you can't help your kids stop and understand how beautiful a flower smells,
right,
and how wonderful and delicious a tomato is right from the garden.
Summertime tomato,
you're moving too fast, and like they're gonna be messed up. And so I love all of what you're saying.
Yeah, it's definitely like, you know, I think it's American Western like hustle culture that I think we were raised in, like fight for your dreams, go get your dreams. And I think like the older we get, we're like, yeah, I mean, do for sure. Yeah. But also like a big thing in our house is doing your best is doing what you can do and still being emotionally and physically healthy. Yeah. So if you need to stop and go to bed early and the work didn't get done, the work didn't get done.
That's your best.
Yeah, that's your best. Definitely. I did my best today. But we feel like it's like, you know, our best is like doing everything and bleeding on the floor. Right. And it's like,
there's the hustle culture is so lame. Like Steve Harvey, he'll talk. Have you seen the Steve Harvey quotes about, you think billionaires sleep 8 hours a night? Like, dude, I think billionaires have their children trying to be emancipated from them. Yeah. So maybe they should sleep 8 hours a night.
Yeah.
Right.
But it is like, you know, you think of how much, you know, my friend sent me this quote of like, you know, all I want to do is like do the dishes while the sun's setting, and after having fed like my family, and like go out into the grass and feel it and smell the, you know, have the wind blow, and you're like, heck yeah, I could do that every day, you know, and that's offered us every day. Yeah. We just hustle right by it, you know, and so now
that's a bar.
Yeah. She sent it to me, our friend Amanda Uraga. She sent it to me. She said, this reminds me of you, and I was like, that's such a compliment.
That is such a compliment. It's true.
And I read this. I'm gonna forget the woman's name who wrote it, but there's
she's gonna be mad.
There was a book called, I think it's called Nurturing the Wow or something like that. It's by a Jewish rabbi, a woman who found that there was no space for women in the rabbinical culture, that it was based on men. Yeah. And so there wasn't like space for motherhood. It was like, oh, the rabbis have to be at temple at these times and they have to do these things. And she was like, yeah, but I got to nurse my kids. And she was struggling with it. So she wrote this book about parenthood, and I read it a couple years ago. And that there's like a whole bit about just enjoying doing dishes. Like, oh, I have to do dishes. Like, how do I make this a holy moment? Oh, I can feel the warmth on my skin, and I can be proud of like the dishes being done and how good it feels when you've like accomplished this, you know. And she like goes through this whole very poetic just explanation of like how we can make doing dishes beautiful and how you can nurture these wow moments in the mundane things, and how really that's like the best case scenario for life, you know, because we all have to do all the garbage stuff, you know, we all have to fold the laundry, but I can fold the laundry eating chocolate and watching a show I like.
That's right. You sure can.
You know what I mean?
You
and
should be.
And then it's the highlight of my day.
You should be. So I can talk for hours and hours and hours.
Same.
And so next time you're going to have to come back on this.
Yeah.
But I want to end with the question that if someone listening right now is going through their own war, what song would you want them to start with? And what would you want them to take away from the album?
Do you have an answer to that?
What song and what was the second part? What
do you want them to take away?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I would think the first song they would listen to, somebody's going through their own war. You grab When the War's Over by Johnnyswim. And I would think you listen to She Checks the Weather, because I think the first thing I would hope for this person, for someone going through battle deep, is to know they're not alone, that they're seen. I think even before you can know that you're loved and cared for, you have to know somebody sees you. And I would hope they could listen to She Checks the Weather and feel seen and not feel alone. And I would hope they would take away from the album that monsters exist, whether they're in our own minds, whether they're outside forces, whether they're our bodies themselves. But not only can we defeat them, but we can sit with them and look the ugly bits in the eye and be better for it. That there's hope even inside of staring at the hard thing. Working through the hard thing leaves you better off. I hope they could take that.
Can I look at it? Because I
That's
kind of don't remember.
beautiful.
Yeah, what he said.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're really good at this soundbite thing.
Yeah, I would. What he said. He's really good at sound bites.
Really good.
He gets all the sound bites.
No. I got a bad one though. But anyway.
Yeah, he gets a lot of sound bites. And I'm like, I said cool things too.
We'll make sure to give you a cool one.
Yeah, give me a cool
Dang
sound
right.
bite. This
Yeah,
is my cool sound
You don't have to
bite.
put it back
That's
up.
hilarious.
Here you go.
Do it again.
This is my cool sound bite.
That's great.
Yeah, I would say, and then I would say probably, I was thinking the same thing. I would think, you know, She Checks the Weather or When the War's Over, just because I do think we get so accustomed to like pushing through what we're feeling and the harder things, that like to be able to like actually sit through, we say it in therapy a lot, no dark corners, like don't let there be dark corners. Like that's how you get yourself into trouble. If you can like look at the things that are hard and just look at them with curiosity and see how you feel about it and see what comes up and talk to people and bring people in, then you get the double experience of healing and community, which I think is the beautiful part about life. Yeah, and I would say maybe like Slow Medicine too, of like, because I think that song is you don't have to go try to fix things. Like you don't have to try to fix things. Like sometimes the most healing thing is just slowing yourself down.
That's good.
And just enjoying the sunlight and enjoying the wind as it comes by, and just like, not feeling like you have to fix everything.
That was like the one that hit for me.
Oh,
because of how fast
I'm
always moving and was moving. That was for me the one.
Yeah. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to solve every problem. Deep breath. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that's a wrap for the main part of the episode.
Yay.
Everyone stick around because we're going to do some fun quick socials and a couple songs. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What an honor.
This
has been my favorite.
Yeah.
I mean it.
Yes, that's awesome. I had high hopes and expectations for sure, but you guys were a dream. Thank you very much.
Oh, come on.
A huge thanks to them both for being here and for their honesty, humor, and heart. I think they are everything people hope artists will be. Not just talented, but so real, so fun, down to earth. If you haven't already, go listen to their latest album, When the War is Over. Let it sit with you. Let it move through you. And if you get the chance, go see Johnnyswim live. It's a beautiful experience. I see them every time they're in Chicago, seeing them tonight. And always remember, style isn't something you wear. It's something you live in. It's how you show up, even when things are hard, especially when things are hard. And if this conversation meant something to you, share the episode. Send it to someone who might need it. Send the album to somebody that might need it, because we all need a little more goodness, honesty, beauty, and healing in our lives. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.